Hi, this is Tracy Lewis from Stuff and Things. I am here to do a little sneak peek and walkthrough of my holiday pre-order that I did for the holiday catalog. I kind of am in a unique situation this year, probably the only time in my entire life I will experience this. I had been a crafter for many years leading up to our retirement and leaving full-time in the RV, so at the time I had to pick and choose what crafting products I was going to bring with me and then leave the rest at my mom's. And at the time I brought pretty much all different brands. In fact, I was on the road already with everything when I became a demonstrator, so I already had a bunch of different brands with me. So for the holidays last year, I ended up, making a variety of cards. I think I do around 40 Christmas cards. I didn't do a lot of gifts because I was traveling, and mailed a few gifts back home to family. Then right after the holidays, many of you may already know this, but we lost our home in an accident and everything in it, which means all of those years worth of carefully collecting, the Christmas and the different themes of stamps and dies and papers, all gone. So this season, getting ready for the holidays, having nothing, my husband and I went through the catalog together and we picked out 3 distinct theme sets. I bought the bundles. I don't really have the space for everything, so it even was hard to justify 3 when really we could have just bought 1. But we both really liked 3 different bundles, and I've been kind of playing with some ideas. I'm going to be going to On Stage this year, so I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of swaps, as in many hundreds. So I'm kind of pre-thinking that through, and I thought it would be fun to show you what I've been playing with and how I find these products work, and a little bit of comparison to the different brands that I have used in the years past. So first, from the catalog, I bought a non-holiday stamp set called Wishing You Well. I liked this because it gives me a little bit of an extra with the wreath, the ribbon, bow, and the season's greetings, another opportunity to make a really pretty, kind of a clean and simple card. So this just struck me. I try to think of things that would be most universal and used for lots of different things, and sometimes a set comes along that I just really like and I buy it. And so that's what this one is. Another set that's just a stamp set. It's not even from the holiday catalog. Because of a rough year that we've had this year, I really appreciate these 2 sentiments. How beautiful a day can be when kindness touches it. And when you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. So for those 2 sentiments alone, I of course love the silhouettes, and you can't have too many thank yous, love you, miss you. So I bought this set because it had been on my wish list and had held back in June and then July, so I went ahead and bought it. Now we'll get into the holidays. So as I said, I bought 3 bundles. So I bought this bundle for the sentiments that it provides. That's really the most of what this is just the sentiments, and I really like this. May the beauty of the season fill your heart with joy, for an inside sentiment. So this is really going to tick a lot of boxes for me. The die cuts inside are very nice. I will say that here's my experience with some of the dies in the past, the larger Merry Christmas dies. They tend to be very complicated and hard to run through, but I ran these through, and I'll show you my example of what I ran them through with, and I only had to shim one extra sheet of 80-pound cardstock that I have been using for cases like this with the more complicated die cuts, and they cut really well. So I'm very pleased because I had a few other die cuts that were very difficult to work with. And so it is nice. That's one thing I can count on with Stampin' Up! Is the quality of their products overall compared to products of other brands that I've had in the past. You know, when you buy something from Stampin' Up! It works, and I really like that. This set, I love the varying of the fonts and the sizes. I will have to tell you, I have a thing about snowflakes, and one of my experiences that I had was I bought a snowflake set of a different brand, you know, 5 years ago, and the sizes weren't varied enough for me, so then I had to go and buy yet another set. So then the snowflakes didn't really match. So one thing I really like, oops, I have the snowflakes, and then in it I have my other bundle, which I'll show you. So what I appreciate about this is that it's pretty much large, medium, and small with the variety, and you get them all with one cut, which is great because my other snowflakes, oh my goodness, to get multiple snowflakes cut was a really big pain. I in fact left after the first one I cut it all up into pieces because normally you don't get a full sheet like this that stays together. You have to cut them apart. The second set that I bought, I left them all together, and it was a little bit easier to work with, but I was really thrilled when I saw this particular setup because you can do your individual snowflakes if you want, or you can just do a whole sheet and do a card using this as a background, which is great. So I really like this. Love the sentiments that come with it. I have played with the cloud. This cloud is one of their new, I think it's called ink tents, where you get the varying colors with one stamping. So I really like that. Love that you can do this stamped snowflakes for your envelopes, and then all the little hatchings and the little snowfall. Great set. Have played around with, I'll give you an example of a card that's almost done, and how easy it was to make, and really love this. This hits my spot. My husband wasn't as thrilled with this one. He was more into the one that I already showed you that had the Christmas sentiments and the dies. So that's the second one. Another thing that I have had over the years, I really am into making fancy tags. Now, since we travel, I don't have as big a need for tags, but what I really liked about this is because it's all one, and I will show you what it looks like. Literally, it is a full, solid die that cuts all of these little pieces out. Every one of them has holes, by the way, which I was thrilled. And then here is the stamping part. So you could just decide you were going to do two froms, and you could go ahead and cut these out and have all your different shapes and instantly have enough tags for all of your packages. Or you can go ahead and stamp them up, and I have a couple of examples. You can ink it up on matching, this is Poppy Parade on Poppy Parade cardstock, and just have it as a background. I probably will do some cards this way, maybe even do wainscoting where I have, we'll get into the, you know, you can do the wainscot with a ribbon down the middle. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do. So I loved how the tags were going to be universal for me and give us a lot of options down the road. You know, we won't always be traveling. We will once again be in the vicinity of family and friends and give gifts. So this will be perfect. And I'll talk a little bit more about this shortly. I bought the glimmer paper that I've actually played with, and we'll talk about that. And it has a matching set of DSP. And so I went ahead and bought the DSP that matches it. It has a foil side, and then it has a non-foil side. So this is one sheet and the deer are on one side. Everything is copper foil, and I went ahead and bought a bunch of copper foil sheets. I am typically a silver foil person, so it was kind of fun to be able to do the glimmer in something other than silver and the foil something other than silver for just getting out of my comfort zone. I'm not really a gold person, but I really do like this copper. So I'm going to definitely get a lot of miles out of this, and depending on how well I figure out my swaps and my design, I might be able to integrate a little bit, you know, not a full sheet, but a little bit of these different pieces onto a swap design or two. I am not very good, by the way, if you don't already know, at doing more than one card of one design. I struggle with that. So then I fell in love with 3 embossing folders. One actually serves a purpose. I traditionally I buy the corrugated cardboard colored cardstock in the pads, and I still have a couple stashed at my mom's. The colors are not the colors I've chose for this year, so when I saw that they now have an actual embossing folder, which is awesome, because in addition to buying the corrugated, I will tell you, I own one of the old-time rolling devices, but there's no way I have room in this trailer to keep a corrugated rolling device, you know, as a tool in the trailer. But I certainly have room to slip in one more embossing folder. So I bought the corrugated, and I've already got some examples to show you of how it works. I fell in love with the swirls. I like the swirls because you can use it for any season. In fact, every embossing folder I bought can be used for multiple seasons. And then of course I fell in love with the tin tile embossing folder. So the funny thing about the tin tile embossing folder is that we remodeled our home not long before we decided to retire and sell it. That was part of how it worked, is that we couldn't live in our home. And we bought this silver tin tile backsplash that we used on the oven side of our kitchen, and this totally reminds me of it. So it's kind of like a bittersweet, I love it, hate it kind of a thing, because I did have to, in order to change our lifestyle like we did, you know, we had to make some major changes. Now, so those are pretty much the basics of what I bought, and now I'm going to show you some things that I've worked on. I told you that I had almost finished a card. Here's just a very simple, I took a piece of Whisper White, my Blueberry Bushel Mini Marvelous marker, and I just marked very quickly. Then I used a blender pen to soften up the marks a little bit. And then I ran it through, and I think with some ribbon, and this is a sentiment. I don't own any punches anymore, and I used to own a ton. I have 0 room for them, so I told myself that I could buy 4 punches. I actually said 3, and then in the holiday catalog, I got some help from people in my community on which 3 to buy, and pretty much everyone agreed this everyday label punch, which is what this is punched out of. I absolutely love it, and am definitely going to be integrating this punch on my Christmas cards, and probably for a swap. I used Blueberry Bushel and Basic Gray. I inked up this stamp on my Stamparatus and was able to use a magnet on each side, so I pre-cut this out and then lined it up perfectly, so if I were to do these in bulk, I would be able to set up a hole punch, take the punched paper. In fact, when I get to doing my swaps, I'll show you guys how I get the Stamparatus set up to do repeats, because I will be doing so many of them. So this will be one card that I will be able to finish. I have the cutouts of those snowflakes. I think are going to be really pretty laid out on the swirls. And how I did the swirls, I did dampen the paper, but if I were to do this again, I will actually dampen the paper a little bit more than I did, and I also used one shim to get a really deep pattern. What you're seeing here, this was my first one that I did, is a little bit of cracking, which means if you see cracking and you don't like it, make sure your paper is damp so that it softens the fibers so that they will bend rather than crack. So that is a tip for you on embossing. But let's say you just colored some snowflakes and you randomly threw them around, and you just have your sentiment. I might do a blueberry bushel edging where I cut it out with the everyday label and I split it down the middle and just slide it out so that the edges are blueberry bushel. And I would even do a ribbon, probably crossed underneath, white and silver, and of course a blueberry bushel border. So that is going to make, right there are two really nice snowflake designs. Love my snowflakes, love how many I got, how many I can cut at one time after years of painstakingly cutting them one by one by one. So that is very cool. I have to show you how pretty. Now, my husband and I picked our colors together. These are our colors that we picked. My husband likes bright colors. There are many different reds. You could go with real red. You could go into the burgundies and use Mary Merlot or cherry cobbler. But these are the colors that he picked, and they do match pretty well with the 3 glimmer papers I showed you. Of course, the blueberry bushel doesn't, but these 2 colors are gonna match just fine, and they will not go with my DSP, but I do have the DSP colors are these 3, and I did buy extra soft suede and extra Mary Merlot. I bought an extra package of each, as well as Night of Navy, which actually I have nothing in Night of Navy today to show you. I definitely will put together something in the swaps. I'm targeting 300 swaps, which like terrifies me, because the most I ever do of any one kind is, you know, like 4 is a lot. So trying to do 100 of any one design, or maybe even 50 of any one design, is going to be just really hard for me. So back on track. Corrugated. This is Poppy Parade with the copper. I think this is going to be awesome, and coming up with some layers to go with it. I did buy, in addition to this, the foil, the glimmer, I bought the foil in copper that I would happily cut and add layers to stack this up nicely. Now I have tricks for this. This is literally, if I take a piece of a full sheet, here is what the tin foil looks like. Very intricate, very detailed. I don't see any splitting in this like I saw in the swirls. I must have dampened this paper more because it still has a lot of depth to it, and it looks just great. I do have a finished project to show you with this shortly. So if this is a full 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is what it is, you can see that when you lay your cardstock on top of this, it's going to be edge to edge. So I practiced first with the red, and I got really close to this edge, so close it was overlapping. So you really have to, with this, ink it up really good. I use the spots. The spots are great to get in there and get all of the little details nice and inked. I was very happy with how it inked, and then I found that if I take my hand on this side and lay it down, I don't know if you know this, but when you do large background images, you leave it facing up and you set your paper down on top. Once you start setting it down, you're stuck, and you have to let it see how it's too far over. So it might take you a try or two to get to the very edge. I only did this red. I think it was the only red one I did. And then I did one white. Here's what it looks like. and this was the only one. And it can be crooked like this. You have to be careful from the side to side issue because Warm Wishes was cut off. So my third one, I did the trick of lining it up on this one side and then holding it and letting it fall. And that was how I ended up very carefully getting everything on the edge to edge. And then I even have my cutout right here so you can see. I thought that the die was very easy to line up. You will see that I've seen people ask, this Merry Christmas with the outline, the fat outline, will cut off a little bit of the outline, which is fine. Same with this one. And this one here has an outline that you will not get if you use the cutout. Same with the dots. And they are, all of the pieces are in my little bowl. So if I find the hexagon shape, here's where it is. And there's no way to get the cutout to show the dots. So, but see how easy it was for me to center? I didn't even spend a lot of time at all. And then when I ran it through, I didn't tape it down. I did nothing special. I can see that this one was a little bit off. So I have to play with that a little bit because all of these others are centered perfectly. So I'll have to play with this Christmas greetings a little bit. I am very, very happy with this purchase. I think that this is going to go and extend itself nicely to lots of different fun things. So I even have, so those are my trick for this, is you put it on your big acrylic block and you lay your paper on top of it. It'll take a time or two for you to get the perfect. Now the other thing you could do is just don't use 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I happen to travel with all of my cardstock pre-cut down into 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 because that's how my storage spacing works for me. And so you could easily just use a slightly longer piece of overlap if you wanted. All right, so we talked about that. Now I wanted to show you one, so the everyday label and the trio where I can do a corner rounder. I even had my husband, before I bought these punches, I asked him what idea he had to make this card that I had at the time. He says, that's kind of boring. You need to dress it up more. Why don't you round the corners? And I'm like, well, those are punches and I don't have any of those. And that's what got me on the mission. And so this punch was the first punch that I looked at, and it has the corner rounder, and then it also has a little floral corner. It as well has a hole punch for making tags. So that's very cool. Then everybody agreed that this was something that I should get. So I went ahead and I was curious how easy it would be to cut corrugated paper and make it into a tag. So what I did, I just cut, it's 2.5 inches or 2 inches wide, stuffed the paper in and cut. It was very easy. It didn't lose any of its shape. And here is what layering I came up with. I just looked through my bowl and grabbed a couple. Here's the white layer that goes on top. You can tie the Merry Christmas. It has 2 holes. And then I just grabbed this one because I thought it was cute, and have your 3 layer. This would be the 2 in the from. And I think that these are going to be very cute little tags with the corrugated as the bottommost layer. So now, happy with my tags ideas, and I'm happy with the corrugated. Now I'm going to show you the card that I came up with for, this was actually a color challenge, and so 2 challenges that I made it for. It has the tin, which is absolutely beautiful in a foil. Any foil will work. Here's where I cut an extra in a color, cut it in half and then slid it out to the sides. And then the 4th punch that I bought, I've always had a sprig punch. The sprig punch that I had before was a small Martha Stewart sprig of just basic pine. So I like that this is an all year round, just generic sprig. You could cut it in half. It's a little bit larger than the other one that I had, and it will work for all sorts of seasonal type sprigs. So I'm very pleased with that, and that's the brown here. This shows the Inktense variation in the pixelizing, so you can get the depth in the ribbon for the bow. And then behind is the wreath from the Get Well Wishes, which I told you was this set that I bought just because I liked it. I really like the font. I like how dainty it is and how soft everything looks. And then another card that I made using this set is this card, which was a color challenge. So if the colors aren't your favorite, they're not mine either, but I went ahead and made it with using the colors provided. With the Twirl polka dot, I colored it using Balmy Blue Mini Marvelous marker. Behind it, and here you can see this threaded linen is actually part of the catalog, and I bought it for Christmas projects or just any kind of projects. Again, I just really liked it. And then behind this, I separated it so that it would be thicker behind the polka dots. So that is all I've got for you for now. Hopefully you enjoyed my sneak peek, sort of an unboxing haul video that shows me actually using the products and what I think about them. Thanks for watching.